Hello and welcome to the video. This video is kind of a follow-up to a couple of videos that I've done recently. I did one a couple of weeks ago. I'll put a link here talking about what's next in your radio controlled hobby, as lots of people have come into the hobby with the 5-inch quad phenomenon and looking around at what they can get into next. Now, one of the things I talked about in there was the move to ground-based vehicles, trucks, boats. And one of the great questions I've had as a follow-up is, can you use the radios that we use in the hobby, things like the Tyrannus, the X-Lite, the QX7, those kind of radios, can you use them for those other kind of models? And the great news is absolutely you can. The principles are exactly the same for speed controllers and ESCs, and on a car it's very, very simple and straightforward. All you have to do is plug in the speed controller into the throttle channel on your receiver, and then plug in the servo that's taking care of the steering into the steering channel, whatever you've got set up. Now, the way I tend to set these kind of things up, if I'm setting up a car, I'd set up the throttle to still be on the throttle, because that's what we kind of are used to as quadcopter or airplane pilots. And I tend to set up the aileron or this stick here as the control for steering. And that feels very natural and it kind of works really well. But there is one little wrinkle that you have to think about with a car or truck or even a boat, sometimes speed controller, in that those speed controllers actually work very, very differently from the ones that we're used to in planes and quadcopters. And that is that these ESCs will actually go backwards. So rather than 1000 microseconds to 2000 microseconds representing the throttle range, with 1000 being no throttle and 2000 being full throttle, the way it runs in a ground-based vehicle is 1500, or what we would consider the middle channel position, is no throttle, and typically from 1500 to 2000 is the variable throttle in the forward direction, and from 15,000 the middle channel value down to 1000 microseconds is actually the throttle going in reverse. How do you make that work? As of course the throttles on an awful lot of the radios that we have as RC flyers at the moment don't naturally return to their middle position when they're sprung. So let me show you the trick, what I do to set it up so I can still use the throttle, and with a flick of a switch I can decide whether I'm going forwards or backwards. So here's the little car demo. So let me just flick on this and simulate it. I'm just using an X-Lite as the radio here, but they all kind of work the same. It's OpenTX. So here we have the throttle channel. Throttle channel is channel 1, and as I increase and decrease the throttle, you can see that what I'm actually doing, I'm just getting the forward throttle for the car. So rather than go from all the way down here right the way to the top, which is what we're expect to see if we have it on and some kind of aircraft, I've got it set so it just goes halfway. But not only that, I've also got it set so that if we switch SA out of that very top position, now when I increase the throttle, I'm actually going backwards. So we can still use the same throttle control to go backwards and forwards, and just use as a flick of a switch, almost like a mode switch. And then we've got good old aileron that can control our steering. So let me just show you how I've done that. So in a car, the mixes are dead simple. All you need to do is delete everything apart from your throttle and your aileron outputs, because those are the ones that you're going to plug the ESC and the steering servos into. The inputs, the only thing I've really done special in here, and obviously with a car you can still do exactly the same things about having different dual rates, so you have different amounts of steering. You can also use your sub trim to make sure that the steering is absolutely straight. But here's the bit of funkiness that we've done. And what I've done here is, for the throttle channel, all I've done is, rather than it being 100 with 0% offset, I've changed those two numbers to 50 and assigned it to a switch, which is SA. So that is going to give me the first part of this, which is where, if I just jump into the monitor, it just gives me a full positive travel, which is good. Now the other way around is I then changed those to be -50 and -50 and said when the switch is not in that back position, and that's what the exclamation mark means, then do it in the opposite direction. And then that gives me the ability to flip the switch, and now I'm reversing. Let me just show that on the graph, it's easy to see. There we go. Now I'm in reverse, finish that, pop it into forward, and now I'm going forward as well. Now, of course, the great thing about these kinds of radios that we use in the aircraft hobby is they are bristling with switches and controls. So if you had a vehicle with running lights, with horn, with variable steering, with additional servos, maybe an FPV gimbal or all that goodness, it's dead easy to set up and it's going to be exactly the same. This is probably the only little wrinkle that you need to think about if you're going to be using a ground-based vehicle, because it does have, or most of them do have, the ability to go backwards. So you do need to be able to have the throttle at 0 or 1500 in the low position, and then that allows you to go in either direction. If you found that video useful or like the content, then please hit the like and subscribe button down below. If you want to go the extra step, you can become a Patreon of the Painless 360 channel and help provide support for what I do here. All the videos created here are put into playlists, so if you're interested in a particular topic, have a look at the playlist, and they all are organised in there to make them easier to use. If you're not sure if there's a video for your particular problem or topic you want to know more about, then add Painless 360 to the Google search term that you're interested in, and that should find the video, article or content about the particular thing that you're interested in having a look at.